That fateful Friday down here in Savannah was the most intense, yay here, unforgettable. The Spanish moss outside my window was barely swaying, making the whole house still and quiet. For the first time in a dog's age, I felt this kinda calm wash over me. Shoot, I was plumb wore out from a long week, just hoping for some shut-eye. Laying there, I figured nothing could ruffle the feathers of this peace. Been a single mama to my boy Liam for 8 years now since the divorce. His daddy, bless his heart. And we just drifted apart. No real fightin', just different directions, raising Liam alone, though. That was something else. Most rewardin', most challengin' thing a body could do. He was my everything, that boy. Smart as a whip, funny as a comedian, and a heart bigger than the Mississippi. Still being both his mama and his daddy. That war on a soul, that night. I was so tuckered out I barely had the strength to pull on my nightgown before I just plumb collapsed onto the bed. House was quiet as a church mouse. Liam had turned in hours ago after killing aliens on that video game of his and finishing his homework. Finally, Mama had a minute to breathe. The moon, she was peeking through them thin, flowy curtains of mine, painting soft shadows on the walls. I snuggled right down under that quilt, enjoying the warmth and just letting my mind wander. Life had been kinder lately. Thank the Lord. A welcome change after a rough year. Liam and we'd been through the ringer since his daddy left, but we built ourselves a good life. Even if my Liam's almost 20 now. We're thick as thieves. He was always such a Korean and thoughtful person. Hi, Liam. Sometimes I worried he shouldered too much, for a fella his age. I smiled to myself just thinking about him. He's got such a good heart. And I count my blessings every day to have him in my life. But tonight, honey, tonight I was too plumb tuckered out to think. Felt heavy, sleepy as a bear in winter. Then, soft as a whisper, came this knock at my bedroom door. Woke me up a little. Thought it was just part of a dream at first. But the knock came again, gentle-like, and I was wide awake. Mama? Liam's voice quiet as a prayer, but it was enough to yank me right up. I blinked, trying to focus on the door. Could see Liam's outline in the dim light spilling in from the hallway. I sat up, trying to shake the sleep out of my head. Liam. What's wrong, baby? I asked, my voice still all thick with sleep. He hesitated there for a minute before stepping into the room, closing the door quiet behind him. He seemed kinda unsure about coming in. I just couldn't sleep, he said, looking down at the floor as he stood near my bed. Lord, my heart just clenched. I could tell something was troubling him deep. Ever since the divorce, Liam sometimes get these spells where sleep just wouldn't come. But he rarely opened up about it. I knew his daddy leaving had cut him deeper than he let on. And tonight, I could see that sadness cloud in his eyes. Come on over here, I said soft, patting the empty space next to me on the bed. You can stay with me tonight if you want, sugar. He hesitated for just a heartbeat, then came over and lay down beside me. He was on his side, facing me, and I could see in the dim light just how tired he really was. And how vulnerable, too, which was something I didn't see from him very often. You want to talk about it, darling? I asked Gentile. Liam shook his head, his dark hair falling over his eyes. No, Mama. I just wanted to be close to you. My heart just melted. It did. It had been a spell since Liam wanted to be close like this, like when he was little. I reached out, brushed his hair away from his forehead, and gave him a sad little smile. That's okay, baby, I whispered, putting my hand on his shoulder. You can stay as long as you need. He smiled back, but I could still see something eating at him, something he wasn't ready to spill. I didn't push, though. Instead, I just laid back down, pulled the quilt over us both, and let the quiet of the room wrap around us, comfort us. We lay there for a while, just enjoying the peace. Liam's breath and slowed down. And I thought he drifted off. But then he spoke again, so soft I barely caught it. Mama, "Do you ever miss him?" This question kind of surprised me, but I knew right away he was talking about his daddy. It was a question I'd danced around for years. One I just never knew how. To answer honest, "I do sometimes, honey," I admitted quiet, "but things just weren't good between us. You know that, Liam?" He nodded, but I could tell he wanted more. "Do you ever think things could have been different?" he asked. I sighed then, thinking about the past and those mistakes you can't take back. "Maybe," I said, "but we can't change what happened, Liam. We gotta keep looking forward." Liam looked down, playing with the edge of the quilt. "I guess I just wonder if maybe I could have done something different, you know? Like if I'd been better." His words, they just twisted my heart right up. I sat up, turned to face him. "Liam, honey, no. This wasn't your fault. You didn't do nothing wrong." I said it firm, meaning every word. He looked away, his voice just a whisper. "Sometimes it feels like if I'd been better, Kate, maybe Daddy wouldn't have." Left tears just sprang to my eyes, and I pulled him into a tight hug. He stiffened for just a second. Then he hugged me back, burying his face in my shoulder. "Liam, listen to me," I said, my voice shaken. "Your daddy made his own choices, darlin'. Had nothing to do with you. It was his decision, and it was never your responsibility. You hear me? You've always been more than enough for me." "Don, Daniel," I whispered, my voice filled with love and reassurance. "You're everything to me." He nodded against my shoulder, but I could still sense the tension within him, the weight of years of unspoken pain and guilt. We held each other closely, the silence between us a comforting balm. Gradually, his body relaxed, his breathing deepening as he drifted off to sleep. But as he slumbered peacefully beside me, my mind raced, thoughts and memories swirling in the darkness. We had both endured so much, and yet amidst the quiet comfort of that shared embrace, an unexpected feeling stirred within me, a sensation I couldn't quite name. It was a warmth that spread through my chest, a connection that felt deeper, more intimate than the usual bond between a mother and her son. I tried to dismiss it to focus on the rhythm of his breathing. But the feeling persisted, a persistent whisper that refused to be ignored. Morning arrived too soon, the soft light of dawn painting the room in gentle hues. Daniel slept soundly beside me, his face peaceful and relaxed, the tension of the previous night seemingly forgotten. I watched him for a moment, my heart swelling with love and pride. Yet that unfamiliar feeling lingered, a persistent undercurrent beneath the surface of my maternal affection. I slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb him, and made my way downstairs to prepare breakfast. The familiar routine of cooking offered a sense of normalcy, but my thoughts kept returning to our late-night conversation. Daniel had always been sensitive, but I hadn't realized the extent to which he had internalized his father's absence. The guilt he carried weighed heavily on my heart, a burden I wished I could alleviate. But it wasn't just the action that lingered in my mind, it was the way he had looked at me, the vulnerability in his eyes, the unspoken longing for something more. And if I was honest with myself, the warmth I had felt while holding him had stirred something deep within me, a connection that transcended the boundaries of our familial roles. I tried to push the thought away, reminding myself that he was my son, but the feeling persisted. A persistent whisper that refused to be silenced soon. Daniel emerged from his slumber, his hair tousled, his lanky frame still bearing the vestiges of adolescence. Yet there was a newfound maturity in his eyes, a hint of the man he was becoming. I greeted him with a warm smile, trying to mask the lingering emotions from the night before. "Morning, sleepyhead," I said, placing a plate of pancakes before him. "Morning," he mumbled, settling into his chair and digging into his breakfast. We ate in comfortable silence. The morning light cast a warm glow over the kitchen. I felt his gaze linger on me occasionally, but I chose not to broach the topic of the previous night. He seemed more at ease, more like himself. And I didn't want to disrupt the fragile peace we had found. Finally broke the silence. Thanks for last night, Mom. I needed that. His vulnerability caught me off guard. You never have to thank me. Daniel, I'll always be there for you, no matter what. He nodded, but his gaze remained fixed on me, an unspoken question lingering in the air. I wasn't sure how to respond, how to navigate the subtle shift in our relationship. There was a new intensity in his eyes, a yearning for a connection that transcended the traditional boundaries of mother and son. And a part of me, a part I hadn't dared to acknowledge before, felt it too. After breakfast, he lingered at the counter, his fingers tracing patterns on the countertop. Do you ever think things could have been different? He asked quietly, his voice heavy with unspoken emotions. I sighed, the weight of past regrets settling upon me. Asterisk, maybe, I replied softly, but we can't change what happened. All we can do is try to move forward. Daniel nodded, his gaze fixed on his restless fingers. Sometimes I wonder if I could have done something better, you know? His voice was barely a whisper, laced with guilt and self-reproach. His words pierced my heart, and I couldn't help but reach out to him. I placed a hand on his shoulder, drawing him into a gentle embrace. Daniel, you didn't do anything wrong. None of this was your fault. I reassured him, my voice thick with emotion. He looked away, his voice barely audible. Sometimes it feels like if I had been better, maybe Dad wouldn't have left. Tears welled up in my eyes as I pulled him closer, holding him tightly. He resisted for a moment, then surrendered to the embrace, burying his face in my shoulder. Daniel, listen to me, I said, my voice unwavering. Your father's choices were his. Own you are and always have been more than enough. His leaving had nothing to do with you. He nodded slowly, his body relaxing against mine, the tension in his shoulders gradually easing as he settled into the embrace. I felt that unfamiliar warmth rise within me again, a mix of relief, affection, and an undeniable sense of connection. The bond between us, once defined by the roles of mother and son, seemed to be shifting, evolving into something new. Something neither of us fully understood, but both instinctively felt. For now, I held him close, letting the moment linger without questions or explanations. I wasn't sure where this newfound intimacy would lead us, but I knew that life as we had known it was changing. And this was just the beginning. As I lay there, in the darkness, enveloped in the warmth of my son's embrace, a profound realization washed over me. The delicate balance of our relationship was shifting, teetering on the precipice of something new and uncharted. A tremor of apprehension coursed through me. A whisper of uncertainty about what this transformation might mean for us. Yet, amidst the apprehension, there was an undeniable sense of anticipation. A recognition that this was merely the beginning of a journey into the unknown. Dawn arrived with a gentle insistence, the soft tendrils of sunlight weaving their way through the curtains, rousing me from slumber beside me. Daniel slept peacefully, his face serene and relaxed, the burdens of the previous night seemingly forgotten. I watched him for a moment, my heart swelling with a familiar maternal love. Yet beneath that well-known affection, a different current stirred, a sensation I couldn't quite define. It was the same unfamiliar feeling that had danced at the edges of my awareness the night before. A sensation that both intrigued and unsettled me. I slipped out of bed, careful not to disturb his slumber, and made my way downstairs to the familiar routine of breakfast preparation. As I stood at the stove flipping pancakes with practiced ease, my thoughts drifted back to our late-night conversation. Daniel had always been a sensitive soul, but I hadn't grasped the depth of his internal struggle, the way he had carried, the weight of his father's absence, the guilt he harbored, secret he had kept hidden for far too long, now weighed heavily on my heart. But there was more to it than that. There was a shift in his demeanor, in the way he had sought solace in my arms. A yearning for a closeness that transcended the traditional boundaries of mother and son. And, I was honest with myself, I had felt it too. a warmth that spread through me when I held him, a comfort that went beyond maternal instinct. I pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task at hand. He's just a boy, I reminded myself. Your son. But the feeling lingered, a persistent whisper that refused to be silenced. Daniel finally emerged from his slumber, rubbing the sleep from. His eyes dot, his hair tousled, a picture of youthful innocence. Yet there was a newfound maturity in his gaze, a hint of the man he was becoming. I greeted him with a warm smile, attempting to mask the lingering emotions from the night before. Morning, sleepyhead ... I chirped, placing a plate of golden pancakes before him. Morning, he mumbled, settling into his chair and eagerly devouring his breakfast. We ate in comfortable silence, the morning sunlight bathing the kitchen in a warm glow. I could feel his eyes on me occasionally, but I remained silent, not ready to delve into the complexities of the previous night's revelations. He seemed more at ease, more like himself. And I didn't want to disrupt the fragile peace we had found. Finally broke the silence, his voice laced with gratitude. Thanks for last night, Mom. Needed that. His vulnerability surprised me. You never have to thank me, Daniel, the first reassured him. I'll always be there for you, no matter what. He nodded, but his gaze lingered, a silent question lingering in his eyes, a mirror of the unspoken emotions I had been grappling with. His eyes held a depth, an intensity that transcended the familiar comfort of our mother-son bond. The day unfolded uneventfully. Daniel retreated to his room, immersed in homework and video games, while I busied myself with household chores. Yet the atmosphere between us had subtly shifted. It was an intangible change, a quiet tension, an unspoken acknowledgement of the deeper connection that had emerged as the day transitioned into evening. My thoughts returned to Daniel, to his transformation from boy to young man, to the closeness we had shared the night before. The more I pondered, the more I realized that my feelings for him had evolved, transcending the boundaries of maternal love. That evening, after dinner, we settled on the couch to watch a movie. The room was dimly lit, the flickering images on the screen casting dancing shadows across the walls. We were mostly silent, content in each other's presence. But as the movie progressed, I became acutely aware of his proximity. The way his arm brushed against mine with each subtle shift. My heart quickened and I tried to focus on the film, but the tension between us was palpable, a silent symphony of unspoken emotions. Halfway through the movie, Daniel shifted closer, his arm pressing against mine. This time he didn't move away. The warmth of his skin against mine sent a shiver of awareness through me. I glanced at him and our eyes met. His gaze was filled with a newfound intensity, a reflection of the emotions I had been trying to suppress all day, without conscious thought. I reached out and took his hand, our fingers intertwining. He didn't resist, instead squeezing my hand gently, his thumb tracing a slow circle on my skin. This simple gesture sent a flutter through my heart, a sensation both familiar and exhilaratingly new. We sat like that for a while, hands clasped in the dim light. A silent testament to the shifting dynamics of our relationship. It was a turning point. A moment of unspoken understanding that transcended the boundaries of our familial roles. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that things were changing and Daniel was no longer just my son. He was something more, someone I cared for in a way that defied definition. The movie ended. But we remained on the couch, the credits rolling unnoticed. I leaned my head against his shoulder, feeling the steady rise and fall of his chest as he breathed. It was a small gesture, yet it felt profoundly intimate, a silent acknowledgement of the connection that was blossoming between us. Mom, Daniel whispered, his voice barely audible. Yeah, I'm really glad you're here. His words, simple yet profound, echoed the sentiment in my own heart. I was glad he was here too. Glad for this unexpected closeness, this newfound intimacy that was both terrifying and exhilarating. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt truly alive. There was no confusion, no guilt, just the pure, undeniable truth of our love. It was a love born from years of shared experiences of trust and understanding that ran deeper than blood. It was a love that felt as natural as breathing, as inevitable as the sunrise. We lay there in the aftermath of our shared passion, the silence punctuated only by the soft rhythm of our breaths. Daniel finally pulled back his eyes, searching mine with a warmth that melted my heart. "Are we okay?" he asked, his voice a gentle caress in the darkness. I nodded, unable to speak for a moment, my heart overflowing with emotions that defied words. "Yeah," I whispered, my voice thick with unspoken truths. "We okay later that night?" After the remnants of dinner were cleared away and the house settled into a peaceful quietude, Daniel and I found ourselves on the back porch, enveloped by the tranquility of the night. The air was crisp and cool, the stars twinkling like diamonds scattered across the vast canvas of the sky. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of release, a lifting of the weight that had been pressing down on me. We didn't speak much, but words were unnecessary. Simply being near him, sharing the quiet beauty of the night was enough. Asterisk, there was no urgency, no pressure, just a comfortable silence that spoke volumes. Whatever this was between us, it was unfolding organically, and I was content to let it blossom at its own pace. He reached for my hand, his touch sending a warmth that spread through me like wildfire. I smiled, squeezing his hand gently, and we sat there. Our relationship had blossomed into something beautiful, something that fulfilled a need we hadn't even known we had. It wasn't until a rainy afternoon in late autumn that the full realization of our love washed over me. The sky was a canvas of stormy grays, the rain drumming a steady rhythm against the windows. Daniel and I were curled up on the couch in the living room, fire crackling in the hearth, casting a warm glow over the room. We were wrapped in a blanket, the warmth of the fire and the intimacy of our closeness, creating a haven from the storm outside. Daniel was leaning against me, his head resting on my shoulder, and I absently ran my fingers through his hair, savoring the quiet intimacy of the moment. The rain-streaked windows blurred the outside world, creating a sense of seclusion, of being in our own little universe. I could feel his breathing, slow and steady, and I knew without a word spoken that he was feeling the same shift in our connection, same undeniable pull towards something more profound. He lifted his head, his eyes meeting mine, and in that moment, the truth of our love resonated between us. It wasn't just love. It was a bond that transcended the traditional roles we had played, a connection that had evolved into something deeper, something undeniable. "Mom," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I remained silent, waiting for him to continue, knowing that whatever he was about to say would change everything. "I love you," he confessed, his hand reaching out to take mine. "Not just because you're my mom, but because of who you are, everything about you. And I don't know if that's okay or if it's wrong, but I can't help it." His words washed over me like a warm wave, filling the room with a love that made my heart ache in the most beautiful way. I had sensed his feelings, but hearing him voice them, acknowledging the depth of his emotions, made it all the more real. I squeezed his hand, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath my fingertips. "Daniel," I whispered, my voice trembling slightly, "I love you too. I've always loved you, but this is different." He nodded, his eyes searching mine for reassurance, for an answer to the unspoken question that hung between us. "I don't know what this means," I continued, "but I know that I feel the same way. And it doesn't feel wrong to me. It feels right." A soft smile touched his lips, and my heart swelled with a joy I had never known before. "I'm glad you feel that way," he whispered, "because I don't know what I'd do if you didn't." I reached up, caressing his cheek, feeling the warmth of his skin beneath my fingertips. "We'll figure this out," I reassured him together. We sat in silence. For a moment, our gazes locked, the only sounds the gentle patter of rain. And the crackling of the fireworks were unnecessary. We had already said everything that needed to be said. We both knew what we felt, and we both knew that it was real. Undeniable. Slowly. Daniel leaned in, his eyes never leaving mine, and gently, hesitantly, he kissed me. It was a soft, tender kiss, filled with all the love and longing we had been holding back for so long. There was no urgency, no rush, just a pure expression of our deep connection. When he pulled back, his eyes were filled with emotion, and I knew that we had crossed a threshold, a point of no return. But instead of fear, I felt a sense of peace. A certainty that this was where we were meant to be. He pulled me closer, his arms wrapping around me, and we held each other as the rain continued to fall the fire, casting a warm glow over our embrace in that moment. I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. The rest of the evening was a blur of soft touches, whispered conversations, and gentle kisses. We didn't discuss the future or the implications of our newfound love. All that mattered was the present, the shared intimacy of that moment as the rain continued its gentle serene. I marveled at how quickly our relationship had transformed. Daniel had grown from a boy into a man, and in doing so, our bond had evolved into something unexpected, something beautiful, something that fit us perfectly. That night, Daniel came to my room again, but this time there was no hesitation. He climbed into bed beside me, his arms wrapping around me, holding me close. It wasn't the comforting embrace of a mother and son. It was the embrace of lovers, equals, two souls intertwined. I rested my head on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, a symphony of love and contentment. I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in years, a completeness I hadn't known. I was missing. Whatever this was, whatever it had become, I was ready for it. Daniel and I had always been close, but now we were something more. Something that defied definition. We were partners, lovers, two souls bound by a love that transcended the boundaries of convention. As I drifted off to sleep, a smile curved my lips. It was crazy, I knew, but it felt amazing.